Good morning, Stewart's Chapel. This is Brother Don Pierson here and Don Counts, and we're at the Harris farm, and we're continuing our look in our devotions at finishers. We're in Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 15 and 16. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days. And it happened when all our enemies heard of it, and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this was a work done by our God. Nehemiah actually came up today in a counseling session. An individual was really struggling and was looking for some place to turn in the Word of God. They had read all the normal places, Psalms, and God just wasn't speaking. And the more and more I listened to him, I said, you need to read Nehemiah, but you don't need to read Nehemiah the way you have read it in the past. You don't need to read it as a man who finished the wall. You need to read it as a man who was in captivity in chapter 1. But in the last chapter, he's a free man. God changed his life. He was doing his normal day of being a servant, a slave in a Gentile land, and God interrupted his life, and a man that had pretty much resigned himself to always being a slave in a strange land, all of a sudden hope comes into his life. And with that hope came a purpose and a mission. It was more than finishing the walls and going home again. But God did all of that. He finished the walls in a remarkable way, and he recognized and he gave God the glory for the fact that it was done in 52 days. It was of God. His enemies knew that it was God. You and I know it was God. Now, we also focus so much on the wall that we forget that the work that was done in Nehemiah was God's work too. So when you read Nehemiah the next time, understand that it is a story of two finishers. It is the story of Nehemiah, how he finishes the assignment God has given to him. But it is also the work of the finisher, the great finisher, God. God finishes a work in Nehemiah. God finishes a work among his people, far bigger than the building of some stone walls. God's doing a work in your life. He wants you to be a finisher. But more importantly, God's finishing you. Love you, Stewart's Chapel.